That number goes back a long, long time. If you go back to the 1920s, so almost 100 years back now, and you looked at psychologists in the U.S., at that point, psychologists were psychoanalysts. This was the time, the era of psychoanalysis in the U.S., and you had, just like in any profession at any time, you had your more seasoned therapists, and you had your newer therapists who were learning the craft. And the idea was, as it very much is now, that if you are a newer psychotherapist, you ought to go to therapy yourself to get your own stuff out of the way so you can really be effective with your clients. And so a lot of these younger therapists were going to older therapists for therapy. All good, right? No problem so far. Well, as those younger therapists were themselves seeing clients, what they kept doing in what was supposed to be their therapy when they would go meet with the older psychotherapists is they only wanted to talk about their cases. They didn't want to talk about their own stuff. They didn't want to actually participate in psychoanalysis, the thing that they were ostensibly there to do. And so in about 1923, 24, the older psychotherapists, the psychoanalysts, got together and for the first time set standards for supervision in the field of psychology. One of the things that they needed to figure out was how long does someone need to be supervised before we trust them to go out and practice on their own? And I left out a piece here. The whole point of setting standards for supervision was to separate out the roles of therapist and supervisor, so that if you're going to therapy, you are there to do your own therapy. If you want to do case consultation, you go meet with your supervisor. So they gather to set these standards for psychology supervision. And they're looking around at what's happening in other fields, and they're attending to their own kind of experience as well. And as they're trying to figure out how long should somebody be supervised before we trust them to go practice on their own, they land at a particular time frame. Any guesses about what that time frame was back then? 2 years. They said 2 years of full-time supervised experience or the equivalent. That, to this day, is the language used in a whole lot of state laws. In California, like some other states, we've operationalized it as 3,000 hours. But it's the same idea. It's 2 years of full-time experience or the equivalent. That is a number, that is a standard that has stayed around for almost 100 years now, despite very compelling evidence that your skills, your outcomes plateau long before that. So why do we keep you in supervision for that long?